Hey YouTubers, I am your host Tony Merkel, and I want to let you know that we are a podcast first, which means we upload our shows to YouTube. If you really like the show and you want to hear it on the go, whether you're at the gym or in the car driving around, go to iTunes and hit subscribe. And if you're not on iTunes, no problem. Go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player, hit subscribe, and you can listen to us that way as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. Let's get to it.
This was all circulating around the base that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long, bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappear.
When he came over to me, dude, he slithered over to me.
And this giant comes out of the cave, and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand, and he's running really fast and spears Dan and holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got closer. When he got about 15 yards away from me, I raised that 12 gauge and I blowed his head off.
I feel something pulling at my leg. And I look over and there are 2 small gray entities pulling at me. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed.
I reached my hand into this bush and I touched air. Couldn't breathe and I couldn't move because I know I'm seeing a monster.
Yep. Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to The Confessionals. I am your host, Tony Merkel. Thank you for being here. If you've had an encounter or a story you'd like to share with me on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email. My email address is theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. That's theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the contact section, and you can reach me that way as well. Either way works for me. Just get a hold of me. And if you're interested in having more shows per week, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com and hit the join button and become a member. We put out an extra show every Thursdays for members only. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. So we got a cool show coming up here for you guys this week. We have Amy coming on the show, and she's a local woman to me. She's from the Bensalem area, and I've talked about Bensalem before on this show, and we'll be talking about it today, where I saw a UFO in Bensalem. And actually, no, I didn't see the UFO in Bensalem. I read about the UFO in Bensalem, and I saw the UFO outside of Bensalem. Anyways, we're bringing Amy on the show, and I'm really excited about having her talk about her experiences because it's going to be talking about different abduction scenarios she's been through and even things taking video of her with her phone while she's sleeping. Very trippy stuff. I'm really excited about it. But before we get to Amy, we're going to bring on Scott here because Scott and I are working on a collaboration where we're going to be bringing to you, starting today, the Confessionals Beard Oil series. So Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Tony. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm really excited about these beard oils. When I first started the podcast, I had a huge beard, and I was a judge in different competitions. I entered my beard in competitions. I reviewed beard oil and balms and things like that. In fact, when I started the podcast, I had a huge pile of boxes stacked against my wall in this room right now of products that I was supposed to review, and I never did. I never did because I never got around to it. But either way, I was really heavy in the beard game, and I always wanted to have my own beard oils. And so you contacted me, and you're like, "Hey, man, I just found out about your love for beards, and I have a company, and I'd love to work with you on something. I could send you some product to check out." And I said, "Yeah, go ahead, send it over." And to be honest with you, Scott, after reviewing so many products, you get used to the fact that most products suck. Like most products, they suck. Either it's either they have awful scents, bad marketing, or the quality of the product is bad. So it's like if you have good quality, sometimes the scents suck and the marketing sucks. Maybe the marketing's great, but the quality sucks and the scent sucks. To hit all three is very rare. And so you sent me the stuff. I'm like, okay, I didn't think anything of it. I got the package and I think I let it sit for a couple of days because I was like, I'm busy. When I opened that up, and I saw the different scents that you had, I was like, holy crap. Like the marketing itself just stood out to me. I mean, it was unbelievable, the marketing aspect of these things. So what you sent me were 4 different scents. One was called Morning Joe, and you designed it to look like a Starbucks logo. And I was like, that's cool. And then there was one that was called The Fade, which was like a barbershop look to it.
Yeah,
and then there's the Double Trouble bubble gum. I'll tell you what, man, I was really impressed with the marketing aspect of things. I was like, well, he hits the marketing, but we'll see about the scent. When I opened the bubble gum, I was like, I wanted to taste it. Like, that's how good it smelled. And I was like, holy crap. And I went through these scents and they all smell amazing. Like the Morning Joe literally smells like coffee. I was like, holy crap. And so I wanted to ask you, Scott, before we get into the scents that we're going to be launching for the Confessionals, how did you get involved in making beard oil?
Well, it was kind of it's been kind of a long journey, to be honest. I got interested. I think I found some products on Amazon or something like that. And I've always grown kind of a patchy beard. So I was looking for products that would, help fill in some areas and maybe take care of some work that genetics weren't doing. But everything I tried, I don't know, it just didn't work, or the scents were all generic and everything smells like a pine tree type thing. And so I don't know, I just did some research and found out the good carrier oils, the good ingredients and stuff to use, and wanted to kind of create something that was a little stepping outside the norm as far as, scent profiles and stuff of that nature goes. So it's been about 1.5 years now, and I don't know, doing well.
Absolutely, man. So what the audience is getting through the show is beard oil, 3 scents, and the scents are Dogman, Sasquatch, and Spectre. And I'm telling you, dude, like, I didn't have any doubt in my mind that you'd make a good product with my face on it with the logo. But when you sent it to me to try, I was blown away. And so my 2 favorite is Sasquatch and Dogman. Those are my 2 favorite scents. And when I first smelled them, Sasquatch was my favorite. And then I didn't try Sasquatch on, though. I just smelled it. And then I actually put the Dogman on, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is my favorite. And then I put the Sasquatch on later, and my wife smelled the Sasquatch on me, and she's like, oh, I really like that. And that became my favorite then. And so, like, if the wife likes it, then I love it. So, yeah. And so that's the thing. I mean, with these scents, I mean, people that are listening, you're not going to put these on and feel like you just walked out of a dumpster. If you get the Sasquatch scent, like, it's not like you're just rummaging through, trash and you're going to smell like a Bigfoot or, a dog man. You're not going to smell like a wet dog walking around the house, so it's more the names attributed to the show the most and stuff. But these things smell great, and I'm really excited about it. So if people that are listening that are interested, if you got a beard, you're definitely going to want to try these products. Okay. And there's guys that I know have, big long beards, and they're like, oh, I don't put anything in my beard. Well, you're silly then, because your wife would really appreciate if you took care of your facial hair. Because do you wash your hair? Yeah. Do you take care of your hair? Yeah. Well, you should take care of your beard hair as well. And so that's my pitch to people. Whenever I came across people, because they're like, oh, why do you review products? I'm like, well, because I have a beard and I use products. And they're like, you actually put stuff in your beard? I'm like, yes. Like, it's like asking me, do I wash my hair? Yeah. Guys, if you got a beard, you're definitely going to want to try these beard oil scents. And ladies, if your man has a beard, definitely buy these for his birthday. Christmas is coming up right around the corner. And if you don't know anybody that has a beard and you don't have a beard, buy it for yourself, because I'm telling you, these scents smell so good. Scott, would you say that you could actually take these oils and put them in like a oil burner and have them as a fragrance in the house? So that's what I've been telling people. Would you back me up on that or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I do it myself from time to time.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I wouldn't recommend that for all beard oils, but for this, I was like, holy crap, you literally could just have an oil burner and it would make the house smell amazing. And so, even ladies, if you want, grow the hair out on your legs and your armpits, and hey, there you go. I mean, I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. But I just wanted to, Scott, thank you so much for coming to me and, asking me to be part of this, because this literally was a dream come true for me. Like, I can't tell you how much I've always wanted to have my own scent line, and I finally have it. Thanks to you. And I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited about dropping these. So they are on sale right now, October 1st, 2019. So if you want to get a look at the beard oils that we're coming out with, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the store button, and scroll down to the bottom. You'll see the scents right there. And when you click the images to go ahead and purchase your beard oil, it'll redirect you to Scott's website. And Scott, what is your website?
anointedak.com.
anointedak.com, and there you'll be able to purchase any of the scents, and go ahead and check out the other scents that Scott makes and stuff. But if you're going to buy something off of Scott that's not the Confessionals scent, I will hunt you down. So definitely definitely purchase some of these scents that we're coming out with. But Scott, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to people getting these oils and sending us reviews.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a fun time putting together, and I really hope everyone enjoys them.
Absolutely. So definitely check it out, everybody. And let's get to this week's interview. We have Amy coming up right after this coming Thursday's members audio trailer. Let's go.
When I was 10, my mom got pregnant with my sister. And so we bought a house because we were in a really, really small apartment. And so we bought a house. When we moved in, I wanted the upstairs. It was a loft at that point. And so spent so much time preparing this bedroom. So excited for it. That room was always cold. And I love the cold, so that was another reason why I love this room. Well, one night I was up. I was like 11. We had been there for a year or so. I was like 11 or 12. And I was watching TV, and I heard this noise. And it almost sounded like somebody calling a dog, like that. And it came from across the room over by my desk. And I had a ton of junk. So I was like, maybe it's just like a timer or a ticker or something, making noise. And so I'm watching TV. I'm not really paying attention. And so finally I'm, ready to go to bed. I turn off the TV and I'm laying there and I can hear the noise and it keeps going. And so I'm trying to time it, trying to figure out what it is. If it's a timer, it's on like 10-second intervals or 30-second, whatever. And, I'm trying to go through my mind, what do I have over there that would be making this noise? I can't think of anything. And so anyways, it just, at that point, I had already been like experiencing like weird things. I had been having this feeling like something's watching me, seeing like shadows out of the corner of my eye. And my mom just told me, well, if you think that it's something, tell it to go away and be very stern and it'll listen. And so I was like, okay. So I get fed up with it and I just go, leave me alone. And I turn over on my side. And as soon as I do that, I hear it's in my ear and it goes out of that bed, down the stairs, so fast. I don't think I've moved that quickly ever in my life. I was like, I'm just going to sleep on the couch tonight. And so I jump on the couch and I'm like, my curiosity got the better judgment of me. And I looked and I just seen 2 red dots. It wasn't like, a person's eye. It was just red, 2 red glowing dots on the staircase about halfway looking directly down at me. And I got up and I think I slept on my parents' floor that night. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not sleeping up there anymore. I can't do that again. Like, that scared me so bad that I moved out of the loft that I had been so excited for, and I moved downstairs.
All right, today we have Amy on the show. Amy, how you doing?
Hi, Tony. I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. So you're actually from the area that I'm from and stuff, and you were talking about towns and stuff that I'm very familiar with, and it's interesting. It's fun to talk to somebody that is from my area, because I do this show and I put it out on the internet. I don't know where it's going. I don't know who's listening to it, and it turns out that there's people in my area that actually listen to my show. I think it's pretty cool. So thank you for listening to the show.
You're welcome.
So you emailed us about some things that you've experienced. And I want to tell you, I find it very interesting that the first thing we're going to talk about is this UFO you saw in Bensalem, because it wasn't too long ago. In fact, this happened last year, and I talked about it on the show, where I saw a UFO going down the turnpike, the turnpike of 276. And
I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah.
You talked about that on the show. Yeah.
Right. I was passing Willow Grove and I see this boomerang shaped UFO, and I've seen it like two or three other times after that initial account. And I remember seeing online, I was reading an article of UFO sightings that happened in Pennsylvania last year. And somebody had talked about seeing a UFO hovering over trees in Bensalem. And if I remember correctly, he described the same shape that I saw. So I know I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us about what you saw.
Okay. Well, this was 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. I was still living down in Bensalem, and you know the Parks Casino. You know where that is?
Yeah, right off Street Road.
Okay. Well, my neighborhood was there's parks and there's some woods, behind it, and through those woods, then there's my developments, so it was kind of couldn't see it, but it's through those woods, and I used to. I have a front porch, and that's where I go sometimes to have a cigarette, this or that. I loved nighttime. Kids are in bed. That was always my time. I loved being alone at night. That was mommy's time. I could get things done. And, since then, let me just put this. Since then, for some reason, I don't like nighttime anymore. I don't like to be alone in my house without another adult at nighttime. And I never really thought much about where it came from until somebody started really asking questions. And I said, I'm afraid to have a UFO or an alien encounter. And I realized I have a memory, and I know it was around that time because I was living down there, and it was right after my husband and I had split up. I have a memory. And the thing is, I don't know I never knew if it was real or if it was a dream, but regardless, it affected me emotionally so much that it changed everything about me. I'm afraid to, be alone at night. I don't like nighttime. So that kind of makes me feel like it was real. And so I have, this memory, it's very quick of, I walk out my front door and I look through my neighborhood. It's all, my neighborhood's a development, all these little townhouses. There's a lot of kids, a lot of people. But when I open the door, all I see coming over the tree line from where where the casino was, and it's low. It's right where the trees end. This is low, like not much higher than my house. A craft that is so large, you can't see anything but it. It takes up the entire sky, and it's going slowly. It's like all the sound of everything stops. It was just hushed. And I'm standing there and I'm watching this thing, and it's going it's going slow, but it's huge. That's all I see. Real slow, comes up over my house, and all I hear is like a low hum, like a, kind of, but it was like everything, my whole environment stopped. I felt like I was the only person, or I was the only person I could see. But somehow in my mind, I knew nobody else would be able to see that but me. And although I didn't feel like it was coming there for me, I just had a sense that I knew that it knew I saw it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was aware that I could see this, even though it wasn't necessarily there for me. I remember seeing when it first came over from the tree line, it was shaped, and it was almost like, not maybe boomerang, like a crescent, more like kind of like a boomerang-ish shape to the front of it. It had some lights on it. I can't really recall. I know there were colors to them, but I can't really recall. It almost felt like when the lights were blinking, like on real foggy nights, you could see lights of where airplanes are. It's kind of like hazy, but they're there. I knew they were. I can't recall exactly the colors, but then when it comes up, it's all black underneath, like a matte black. And I see little like panels and things like that underneath it, like little mechanical structures and things like that. Things you see like like on like a battleship, that what I mean, bolts and that, and it just goes real slow. And then it just keeps going. And like I said, it's so big that it takes up the entire sky. I mean, the thing could have been the size of Pennsylvania for all I know, because I couldn't see like from the sides where it began, where it ended. I saw the front as it approached from over the trees from, parks. And that's it. I don't even remember seeing it go away and then seeing sky. But all I remember was it was like my entire, like the time stopped for a second, and I was the only one. And I knew that regardless if somebody was even looking out, somebody else, they wouldn't have seen it. And for whatever reason, it just terrified me. But I'm not 100% certain if it was just a clip of a dream that I happen to remember, or if it was real. But I really do feel this, like, because it affected me, and until this day, it affects me emotionally. I think I'm pretty sure it was real. So then I'm listening to your podcast. I started listening to your podcast. So somehow I stumbled upon it because I was looking something about black-eyed children in it, Google searches and this, that, and third. But I started listening to your podcast and I really liked it. And you had an episode, I think it was 78 cents. I think the guy's name may have been Ryan. I'm not really sure,
Yep.
But he had
Abducted with Lost Time.
Yeah. I'm listening to that. I'm in my upstairs bathroom floor, and he talks about an event where he was working in Hershey. And it was like, I'm like, oh, that's what I saw. That sounds like what I saw. And then I realized, wait, I actually like replayed it to see when he said it was. I'm like, that's about the same time. And then he even said like the direction that it headed. It was almost like that would be the direction from Hershey to Bensalem. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I saw that too. It was just really weird. So that's what kind of sparked me to like, oh, I should, shoot him an email and let him know. So yeah, I mean, and till this day, I when I'm home alone with my 6-year-old son and it's nighttime, I can't go downstairs or anything. I have to be upstairs in the bedroom with him. When his bedtime, it's my bedtime, because I'm scared unless there's another adult in the house, and it just scares me. I'm scared to have some type of encounter, I think.
Yeah, well,
so, yeah.
I mean, everything that you're saying, it lines up with, because when you were talking about that, I was thinking about Ryan's experience and stuff. And it's a very common thing. A lot of the things that you were describing with the humming, the matte black, and the idea that you keep saying that you feel like you don't think you dreamt it, but like you have this memory. What are your thoughts on the idea of being abducted? Because it seems like you don't ever remember seeing it leave. It seems like there is a gap of time.
Oh my gosh. Now you gave me chills, because to be honest, I never considered that. Never. And I think that I do, now that you say it, of course, I think it is a possibility. And maybe that's why it has me traumatized to that level. I mean, I've had scary dreams before, Tony. I mean, all kinds. I used to have such crazy dreams. People wouldn't believe me when I'd tell them about them, because they were so wild. Nothing has nothing has shook me like that. I mean, this is years ago. And that's a possibility, but I honestly never really thought of it. And, and if it was something that happened, I don't want to know anything about it. I want it to stay in my subconscious. I don't ever want to have to relive it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, some people want to go through regression therapy to, draw those memories out. And some people are like, they can just stay where they're at because I don't want to know. In fact, I think Ryan said the same thing on his show, where like I don't think he wanted to remember some of the things that he went through, because the memories he had were crazy enough. I'm not telling you were abducted. That's what I want to make sure that I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying some of the things that you're describing are a lot of symptoms that people say they have when they were abducted. And, the idea that you don't remember anything is a common thing. And there's the idea that taking whatever happens, and then you're put back in the same place of time, and you don't really remember anything, and you don't remember seeing the craft leave. But
I don't.
There are a lot of sightings of UFOs in that area: Bensalem, Willow Grove, Croydon, and there's the old Horsham Air Force Base, and and I have nothing to back this up other than just this suspicion. I've been on the Air Force Base twice, and for two different companies that I drove for. And the very first time I went on the Air Force Base, I was doing a delivery, and this is before I did the show, before I was in the community of paranormal and all that stuff. And I remember I was moving equipment off the base because the base was closed for a long time, and yet they were saying they were closing the base. And I was like, okay. And so we're pulling out like copy machines and stuff out of these buildings. And I remember asking, because there was officers on the base still, and there was areas of the base that it looked like they were still working. And
and it did. It had for a long time, almost the whole time that I lived down there. Because my ex-husband works for Comcast, and the office he worked out of was literally like right near there. They have that little capsule thing, right, where the early astronauts would learn anti-gravity. That's like still on that property, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So continue.
It's one of those things where I was in my early 20s, and I remember thinking this seems like they're not done here, but and I didn't even think of it in my head like in a cohesive thought. It was just I had this feeling like they were doing things here still that maybe they're not letting you know about. I just had this weird feeling, and if there were crafts, like say they have this, grand conspiracy of, these secret crafts that they have on the base, it'd have to be underground because I've seen the buildings on that property.
It's not a big base at all.
No, it's not. And the property itself is surrounded by tons of industry, tons of homes.
Yeah.
And so if there is something going on there, it'd have to be underground, and the exit would have to be not on that property itself. It'd have to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
I used to. I was always a sky watcher and always being interested in, and I used to constantly. My kids would always make fun of me. I'd be driving at night and I'd be all of a sudden start chasing something. That's it. It's a UFO, guys. It would be a helicopter. It's just like this joke in my family. But I would constantly call my ex-husband, telling him, I swear I see it, because McGuire Air Force Base, although it's in New Jersey, it's very close. And that's heavy traffic, at least it was back then. And I would see interesting things in the sky all the time. And my ex-husband is a Navy veteran. So I would constantly be, but this thing, it took off straight in the air, then it sprung wings. And he was like, oh, you saw blah, 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 whatever it would be. And he would always laugh at me. But when I had this experience, I don't think I ever told anybody. I don't think I really remembered it right away. I didn't really remember it till people were digging into, why are you so scared of the dark now?
Yeah, and that goes against your character, because over your life, you've always been jumping to tell people what you've seen. And, if you would have saw something like that, you would have been telling the world. You would have been on Fox 29 News,
Exactly. And I don't know why. I don't even say, it wasn't like I woke up the next day and said, wow, was that a dream? I don't even remember how long it took me to remember it. And I only remember the time period because I have a really good memory like that about time and this and that. But I just know that because I had moved not long after, I knew what was going on and I knew who my neighbors were. You know what I mean? I remember those kind of details I know, you know what I mean? It was right when I split up with my husband, but I didn't remember it right away. Yeah. But I just know it took me some thinking about why because I love nighttime. I mean, I was that one. Everybody's like, why are you always up at 4:30 in the morning taking this? It's like the only time to clean. I have 5 kids. It's the only time I can get any time for myself when they're asleep. I couldn't wait for them to go to bed. And I mean, until this day, when it's nighttime, if there's not another grown up here, I am like, okay, Andrew, time for bed. Flick the lights off. I'm running upstairs, and I will not go back downstairs. I'm always begging my friends to come over and hang out with me at night because I'm scared.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really affected me, and I never really considered the whole abduction thing. Thanks, Tony.
Well, I mean,
just kidding.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
I wouldn't sweat it, but
No,
you know, if you feel like diving into things and stuff, I mean, I would direct you into looking at other people's experiences that were abducted and see if anything lines up with you. And just a fair warning, by doing that, it really, really, really could jog memory if it did happen. So you may not want to do that.
I don't want to have that memory either. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to remember it because all the other things I've experienced in my life, they never really frightened me or rattled me, traumatized me, but this did. And I remember even as a little girl, like, you know, my mom and stuff would say, stop watching these things or talking about these things because you invite it to yourself then. And you know what I mean? If that were it's like, wow, I really did, you know, just by my interest in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of terrified of space, and the thought of space overwhelms me. I like astronomy, and I always have loved telescopes, but the whole certain, you know, the traveling in space. I mean, I'm terrified of heights. That movie Contact.
Yeah.
It's that made me it was weird. It really shook me up inside a little bit. I would never want to go to, I'm not interested in it that way. I just am interested in other, you know, paranormal things because I think all things are possible. But you know, certain things like aliens, other life, like going to other planets. Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I would
other things, yeah.
I would just say stay away from it. Then it's kind of like the movie Independence Day with Will Smith, the drunk dad.
Yeah.
He's like, we got to get as far away from these things as we can, and that's exactly what you need to do. Just get away from it.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with that. And it's about my boyfriend. His friends are such jerks because like they'll call me real late at night. And it's because they're like all are late shift people, and they'll be like, "Hey, Amy, aliens," and hang up. I'm like, "You jerk!" Like, you know what I mean? Leave me alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Block them.
Yeah.
Block them now.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that story.
Yeah, and let's get into this other thing before we jump into the Hatman experience. I want you to share with people this really weird, bizarre video that happened with your phone.
Okay. So. You know, I'm binge watching or binge listening to, you know, the Confessionals like a lot of people do. And about the time that I had emailed you, and talking, you know, I'm telling friends about it. I was telling my boyfriend about it, how, you know, because I was like, "What are you listening to?" And it was just so strange. I had a friend over, and I'm telling her about it, and it was weird. I got a phone call from a number I didn't know, so I didn't answer it. I put it in a caller ID, and it was somebody with the last name Merkel, which I just thought was weird. Odd coincidence, but even weirder that later on that night, I went to bed, and it was just me and my son that night. My boyfriend's at work. And so I fall asleep listening to, you know, I put it, you know, the Confessionals, I'll put it on play. And I know with iTunes, when you play and an episode ends, then it just continues on to the next one. But I usually, I fall asleep quickly. I usually fall asleep within like maybe 15 minutes into an episode. So like the next hour, you should go back and, you know, listen to, I like to hear sound when I go to bed. And so that night I go to sleep with my son, and I didn't refresh my memory of all the details about time and all this, but you had it in the email. I wake up the next hour. When I go to sleep, I have a nightstand. It's got 2 tiers on it. And what I always do is I prop my phone. I have an iPhone. I kind of prop it up on something on the second tier, because then the phone is right near my ear, kind of. So I don't have to put it too loud. It won't wake up my son. And so I have it all propped up, but I kind of have to strategically place it so it doesn't, because it'll tip and fall easily. So I wake up the next morning, my phone's right where it usually is. And the first thing I do, you know, you check your messages, this, that, and the third. And I saw that I had a text that I sent to my daughter. I have a 21-year-old daughter who lives down, you know, in Philly. She's in college at Temple. And I look at the time, and the time of the text is, then I don't know. Do you remember, Tony, if you have the email? I didn't, like I said, I didn't refresh my memory real quickly before you called, but it was the middle of the night.
Yeah, I think it was at 1:19 a.m.
Yeah. It was. I went to bed like 10 or something that night. So I was like, So I look at this text, and it's a video, a text that I apparently sent my daughter at one. I play it. It's dark, but all it is me. You can hear me sleeping, breathing. I breathe real heavy when I sleep. And I forget how long it was, not maybe 30 seconds, something like that. And I was so freaked out because, first of all, my phone, the way it is, how I don't, everybody, but a lot of us have iPhones. When I play it's locked, this and that. So this wasn't a video that was sent like when you're composing a text and then you just hit the camera thing and you send a quick video and you include it in this text. This was a video that was sent from my camera. So in order for this video, my phone would have had to be unlocked, go to the camera app, record, then switch to the text app, add it into a text, and hit send, put it back to my iTunes lock, and put my phone back exactly where it is, propped up, real strategic. Furthermore, how could I have even done that in my sleep? Because I'm sleeping in the video. And I did send the video, right, Tony? Like, you can hear me clearly. Like, I almost sound like I'm on the verge of snoring, or maybe I am snoring. I can't quite remember, I think. I mean, you hear it in the video, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's like, because it couldn't even be something where, oh, well, you maybe did it in your sleep. How could I do it in my sleep? You hear that I'm sleeping. There's no noise in the background at all. I don't hear anything. I don't hear any movement, nothing. And yeah, I cannot tell you how that could have happened. Nope. And my boyfriend, he works nights. He's not home until the morning. It's just me and my 6-year-old son who's in bed with me, and he wouldn't know how to do that, nor would that phone end up back where it was, exactly where it was when I went to sleep. But even weirder is when I was emailing you about it, and I wanted to send, like I sent you the video, and then I was sending you like timestamps, this, that. I realized that I knew what I was listening to when I fell asleep. And when you do the hours, when I fell asleep as to this, this episode of the Confessionals is this long, and the episode that was playing at 1:19 in the morning was called Bedroom Visitors or Bedroom Visitation, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Really. I mean, do you know that I think that's the one episode that I haven't been able to listen to? I haven't listened to that one.
Yeah.
Because I'm so freaked out by that. I'm so... when I showed that to my boyfriend, he was like, you better be putting that gun under the mattress before you go to bed. So I was like, Bill, nobody come in here. Like, it's really pretty freaky. Nothing like that's happened since, thank God, but that was really strange.
Yeah, it's obviously, at the very least, it's a weird synchronicity, right?
Yeah.
That video, or not video, that episode is about alien entities coming into a bedroom,
Tony,
and pulling a guy off his bed.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I literally have chills right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And now I know I did. I couldn't bring myself to listen to it after that happened.
Now,
so I was like, I don't want to hear this episode because it was just really strange. Oh my God.
Let me tell you, you've heard the intro and where the guy says there was 2 gray entities and they were pulling me off my bed. That's that episode.
Oh my God.
Now, David, I don't think David believes that they were necessarily aliens. I think he falls in line with it was more demonic than anything, but what he saw was what you would describe as a gray.
Wow.
So, yeah, maybe,
oh my God.
Maybe you don't want to listen to that episode.
No. No. Did you ever see that or hear those clips where people do that, where people who suspect they've been abducted and they put recorders on when they're sleeping?
Yeah.
I can't listen to those. Those are so freaky. And I always think to myself, and I've thought this before that happened. That would be the scariest thing to ever happen to me, is for me to ever somehow sit and listen to what goes on when you sleep. I don't want to know. Who knows? And I'm not even talking about paranormal. I mean, there's other things. Who knows? What if you get like critters in your room or something? Like, I don't want to know. When you're sleeping, you're sleeping. And I always said I don't want to. That would be like I would never put a sleep recorder on. And it was just so weird that happened. And it's interesting. Why did it get sent to my daughter, which I think is really weird? I mean, we don't. She's a college student. We don't text all too much. I mean, you know, she's very busy with work and school, and she's getting ready to finish. And you know, it's just weird. And you know, what's the other thing? She's never mentioned it. I never asked her. Did you get? I never asked her about it because I really didn't want to. But yeah, I don't know why it went to my daughter.
So you never talked to your daughter about it?
No. She's not the open-minded person like that. She's not. She's very much like her father, and she's very literal. Very, you know, she's not. She's an Aries. That's all I have to say. She's not the one who would get annoyed if I would talk anything paranormal with her, and I was really so shook up by it. I really did. For some reason, I just didn't want to ask her. Like, she never responded. She doesn't have her red receipts on, so I really, you know, I wouldn't know. But like, it's not unusual for her not to respond. Like I said, she's extremely busy. If anything, she would get annoyed. Why are you texting me at 1:00 in the morning? So I never really asked her, and maybe there's more to subconscious reason why I didn't want to ask her about it. I don't know. I just never brought it up to her, and but it was odd that it went to my daughter.
Absolutely. And it's just weird considering the experience you had with the UFO that you saw in Bensalem, and then that happening, and the follow-up episode obviously is weird. And what I find very weird though is the fact that it was like somebody grabbed your phone and filmed you and then sent it to your daughter. Like, and
that's why I feel like now that you're talking about it and you're bringing up the whole tie-in with the UFO and what that episode is about, I'm thinking that maybe that weird phone call, that wrong number phone call, wasn't that much of a coincidence either.
Yeah, I mean,
with the name Merkel on it, because this was all when I started. This all happened within 24 hours of me hearing that episode, that episode 78. So it's like, you know, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I got it, you know, and so it's on my mind. I'm bringing it into my everyday, you know, consciousness, you know, and I get this, you know, it's a phone number from, like I had told you, it's a newer area code to the Strasbourg area. So it's not many people have that, but not that big of a deal, but I don't answer numbers. I don't know. So I put it in the caller ID and it says J. Merkel. And I'm like, that's weird. Cause Merkel's not that, at least you know, but I just start listening to your thing and I'm talking about you to everybody. Then I go to sleep that night. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why earlier I asked you...
Oh my God, Tony, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought about something that happened 2 summers ago, and I'm not kidding you. I was just talking to a friend about this. I had a problem where all summer long, I was setting off security alarms in and out of every place I went, and we like every variable. No, not new bras, not new. I was doing everything I could. I couldn't go anywhere because I was setting alarms off. I went to the Michael Kors outlet and I said, is there something, you know, they looked at me like I had 2 heads. I said, no, you don't understand. Like, well, let me look at your wallet. Sometimes there's security bags. No. Finally, when I went to leave, the lady said, hold on a second. She took my bag. She threw them through the little thing when you walk out. Nothing went off. She said, all right, walk through. I walked through. They come up. I'm like, see? I had a friend, at this time I have a friend who had an RF scanner, like a detector. And we're up at his house one night. I was asleep in my boyfriend's truck with the seat reclined. He didn't know I was in his truck because they were talking outside. They're both like avid hunters and this and that. They're both outside. My boyfriend had this issue with the police. We won't get into that, but he took his scanner because he's like, maybe they put something on your truck. It kept going off. I'm asleep at this time. I don't know it. And they couldn't figure out why. This guy didn't know I was asleep in the truck with the seat back. So that, you know, that being that, but then we're talking about it a couple days later, sitting in his garage. He takes off the RF scanner, goes around the garage. There's 3 of us in there, goes to me. Right at my stomach is where it kept going off. I even thought that I have an IUD. I called my doctor. That is entirely plastic? I mean, it couldn't possibly be your IUD. It kept going off right at my stomach. And then all of a sudden, you know, I spent a whole summer going crazy trying to figure out why I'm setting things off. And then all of a sudden, boom, it went away. It doesn't do it anymore. You're freaking me out. I feel like I had an alien because I started joking when I was at the outlet talking to people like, workers, because I want to figure out why I can't even go in and out of Turkey Hill without these things going off. Like, and the one girl, I said, I was thinking alien implant. I said it as a joke, but the one girl goes, I was actually going to say that.
Yeah.
But then it went away. It just, like that, it was gone. It stopped doing it.
How long of a period did this last?
It was like, it was pretty much like late spring, all through the summer. Probably like, I would say maybe from May through August, something like that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it just like stopped doing it. But when we told him when we were in my friend's garage, we started talking about it because he then I was in my car then one time, earlier that night, we were in my Audi, and he started scanning my car, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and it just kept going off near the driver's seat. And he goes, "Oh, you must have your antenna here inside." I said, "I have an aftermarket system." I said, "No, I don't. My head unit, I have no antenna hooked up in my car." And he goes, "That's weird." And that's when I said, "I think it's me." And then we went in and we started talking. I said, "I was in his truck sleeping the other night when it was going off in his truck." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" And then he took it out and it kept going off right at my stomach. And there were like 3-4 other people in that garage to witness it. And I'm like, I'm not joking here, guys. Something's inside. Like, I don't know if I swallowed something accidentally, I couldn't figure it out. I didn't put too much. I just thought it was weird and kind of funny. And then one day I realized, I'm not setting off alarms anymore.
Do you want me to talk to you openly, or do you want me to protect what I say to you? Because I don't want to freak you out. No, you can talk
to me openly. I want you to talk to me openly. It's fine.
All right. So I don't know how to describe this other than implant is something that I'm concerned about here, because, back in, I think it was like the early 50s, mid 50s, maybe the 60s. I can't remember what the movie was called, but it's like one of the first movies that was about like alien invasions and implants and things like that. And I think this is where the idea came from, but I don't know if it's held up through, people's real life stories. But in the movie, I think the implants that were being put into people were like these little needles, and they were often put in people's necks and stomachs. And
yeah, wow.
I know that I've heard people having implants in their arms, their legs, but also the stomach. And it just makes me wonder if, this is a big if. I'm not saying you have an implant. I'm not saying you were abducted, but if there was an abduction scenario and you were implanted, obviously there's technology involved that, is beyond our comprehension at times.
Right.
And is it possible that there's an implant that is activated at times, and that's a sign of the activation where you're actually setting off these alarms?
I see what you mean. Yeah. And maybe they just, they activate it when they need to follow you or for whatever its purpose is. And then maybe, there's times where they're not interested in you or whatever. And it's put on hibernate, so to speak.
Was there anything different or that stands out in your memory during that time when you were setting off these security systems and stuff? Was there anything that you noticed different about life? Was there anything that was kind of standing out as peculiar?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. It was actually a pretty nice summer, to be honest. I don't really recall anything. I don't recall any serious mood changes or wounds, unexplained wounds or things like that. Not that, it was just strange. It wasn't long after we moved up here to Monroe County. We moved up here in November. And so like I said, this happened right the following spring. And I noticed it at Turkey Hill because I was like, you don't really hear the alarms there very often. And I think they only have them for like the different like cell phone chargers and things like that they sell. Not many people buy them. They're so expensive there. And I'm like, why? I keep setting this thing off in Turkey Hill, And like I said, we eliminated every variable over like a month's time as to what it could possibly be.
Was it every time that you went into a store?
Pretty much. In or out. And it was really bad up at the Tannersville outlets. Because, every store, and there it's an outlet. There's a lot of theft, so they'll hold you. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. And like I told you that at the Michael Kors store, they threw my bags first through, no alarm, and I walked through, and the thing starts going crazy. I said, see, I told you, because I was trying to figure it out. I was asking them, like, there's some stores that wouldn't go off on, but like a lot of stores it did. And it's odd that going in and out, it would go off. And just like that, it just stopped. It went away. But it was when my friend got that RF scanner out or detector out, and it was going off in that garage right at my gut, like right below my belly button. And everybody's looking like, oh my God, like what's going on? I thought maybe I swallowed, sometimes you swallow things somehow and they take a while to digest. Maybe I got some kind of weird metal in me, or who knows? It wasn't that, to me, it was just odd, and I didn't really get that stressed out or anything over it. I just thought it was odd.
Well, yeah, it's definitely odd. And just when you look at putting things together in a timeline's sake, the first thing that you remember is the UFO, but you don't remember seeing it leave. And the way you described it, it does sound like there's time loss. And then
like Ryan had like those time slips. And I hope that he hears this. I hope that he hears just so that he knows that there's confirmation. Yeah, that to his story. Because as soon as I heard that, I was like, wow, that's what I saw. Because I never heard too many UFO stories about something being that large where it took up the entire sky, and it was so low, like right up, not far above my roof.
Right. And so you have that happen, and then the next thing is this weird video where I'm just going to say somebody other than you took that video and sent it to your daughter, and that earlier that night you had Jay Merkel call you. And the reason why I asked you when we were first talking what the area code was is because my brother is Jack. And I wanted to just see if there was a synchronicity there, because he runs around the entire side of the state with his company. He has a pest control company, and I just wanted to see like if there was any connection there. But then you have that video happen after the phone call
at night,
and then you have the next episode is Bedroom Visitations, which the subject of that show is weird because you had something happen in your room, and
I didn't even know what it was until you just told me.
And with the background of the UFO sighting and the possible abduction, and now you're setting off alarms. And that
was back in 2017, but like I'm saying, it does all fit into the whole
right. But
idea.
When I'm describing this, I'm setting it in the right timeline, right? Like everything happened in this order, right?
Well, but just the setting off the alarm thing, that was in 2017. That was like May. May to August 2017 is when that was happening. But the seeing the UFO memory from Bensalem, that was like 2008, 2009.
Okay. I just did a quick Google search. I just typed in alien implant sets off security alarms. And there are a couple forums that read, I set off store security systems off. I keep setting off shop anti-theft alarms, setting off security alarms. So I didn't read any of these, but it looks like there's other people with possible same situations. And I don't know if it's, abduction related or what. I haven't read these yet, but it might be something for, no, never mind. You don't want to look into it. So I'll look into it.
What my boyfriend used to tell me when we started dating in 2014, and he used to tell me how, like, at night, it used to scare him when we'd sleep, because apparently when I would sleep, I would twitch so bad, like jump, like twitch, that he started thinking something was really wrong with me, like medically. And he said, you see people twitch when they sleep. That's normal. But he said, Amy, you don't understand what you do when you sleep. And he's like, it's almost like it's an electrical thing. Like, and he said, I've never seen anything like it. Sometimes you do it all night. And it actually made him worried. He didn't know what was going on with me. He thought, do you take any medication? What is that? I was like, I don't know. I'm not aware of it at all. And it was like for the first year that we were dating that he said, I used to do that. And he would be scared to go to sleep because me twitching would like startle him, and then it would scare him, and it would stay up all night worrying. Like, oh my God, look at her. What's wrong with her? And he said, I don't do that anymore, but that's kind of odd too.
All right. So let me ask you a question. I just saw this. The night that the video was shot of you, you said you went to bed around 10 o'clock, right?
10:30, something like that. Yeah, I know I was sawing wood by 10:30. I know that.
And earlier you said that you tend to be up late at night because the kids are in bed and you can do things and it's relaxing.
Well, that's before the 2008, 2009 when I had that memory of the thing. But this was back in the day, like before I moved up here, when I lived down in Bensalem, before I had that experience with that craft, that vision, that memory. I used to love the nighttime. It's since then that I'm really, if it's nighttime, I want another adult in the house. Like when I was telling my friend that night, I had a friend here. As soon as she left is when I went to bed.
When you went to bed that night, was that like a normal time frame for you to go to bed at, or were you like feeling extra tired?
Yeah, it was pretty normal. I think it was weekend. And so my son didn't have school because I remember, not being too concerned that he was up a little bit later. And we were only up a little bit later because my girlfriend was here. She was getting ready to move to Florida. So she was just kind of here saying goodbye. And we were just chatting for a while. But I remember my eyes getting heavy because I'm used to going to bed really early when my son goes to bed, because I just go to bed when he goes to bed because I don't like being here at night by myself. So I just go to sleep. But it was a normal bed routine too. You know what I mean? She left, got into bed, set up the podcast, and I know I fell asleep right away. I think it was the Border Patrol agent episode is what I had turned on. And I even sent you the proof, like, 'cause in the iTunes things, it'll tell you when you played, when you listened to them, what the hours were, just to show, like, that's what I was listening to. And then if you follow along, you'll see that at 119, Bedroom Visitations was the one that was playing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware of it because I was sound asleep. I remember getting up at like 4:30 in the morning to go to the bathroom. And that's normal. I always get up at some point in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, and I'll get back in bed. The podcast will always still be running, but I turn them off then, and I just go right back to sleep. But I always fall asleep listening to them.
Yeah, the title was The Confessions of a Federal Officer.
Yeah, and that's the one I probably fell asleep 10 minutes into it. And that was that until I got up to go to the bathroom, turned it off, didn't think anything of it. And woke up and, right where my phone always is, right there, because I want to keep it there because I don't like to keep it too loud. And I always like my alarm to go off in the morning, if it's a weekend or not. And when I woke up, it was right there that's where I always keep it. But like, it's going to be pretty hard in your sleep to take it, do all those, unlock, go to this app, go to this app, go to this app, compose a text, insert this, send it. Like, no, that's not something that's going on in my sleep. Right.
And, it's funny because that's a lot of process to go through to send in your sleep. I will tell you this, maybe it'll give you a little bit of sense of security, even though I don't think this probably isn't what happened with you. I don't think you did this. When I was in college, I would text my wife in my sleep, and I would text her these long, bizarre text messages that just kind of ramble on about nothing. And I would send it to her in the middle of the night, and it was frequent for a while where I was just texting her in my sleep, and it didn't make any sense. It would be like, I missed my dad, and the car flipped over, and
but you don't really remember doing it. You kind of do it in like a dream state.
She'd be like, why'd you text me that weird message last night? I'm like, what message? And I look at my phone, I'm like, I don't remember texting you at all.
My friend used to do that. She used to drunk text people, and they were bad. And it was like, I'd be like, oh my God, listen to these things. She goes, I know. You're a grown adult now. But then I remember her saying to me, Amy, now my drunk self is getting smart enough to delete the text before I fall asleep so that I don't even know they're there in the morning. But yeah, I know people do that. And you even thought, was my daughter the last person in my text log? No, she wasn't. She was pretty far down too. So it's like, it was intense. Yeah, I don't like thinking about it much because it's just so weird. It's so freaky. And the look on my boyfriend's face, because he really doesn't get into that kind of thinking about things. He's real cut and dry, black or white, and he doesn't really think into things. And he looked scared because he's like, what? Because he knew. I couldn't have done that myself. He knows nobody was here but me and a 6-year-old.
If I were you, I would talk to your daughter at some point. I really would, and bring it up because I'm just saying, like, there might be some clues there.
Maybe she's had experiences. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe there's something telling you that she's next, or maybe she had some experiences that night that kind of that video all of a sudden made sense to her. And if she told you what she experienced, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that all fits together now.
And of all the paranormal things, the alien UFO one is the one that terrifies me. Why did that have to be the one to introduce itself into my life and not Bigfoot or something like that?
Well, I'll tell you what,
Just my luck.
You're up there in the Poconos. Bigfoot is up there. There are plenty of sightings.
I wish I would have thought and didn't lose track of time, because I have a picture that my sister's friend posted. She lives in Kunkletown, where I live. One winter, she works for a school district, so she's very careful about what she puts on social media. She doesn't want to make her, but she just said, "I'm just going to leave this picture here for y'all during a snow." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's a Sasquatch!" And all of a sudden, this was right after I moved here, and a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, they're up here." Oh, better believe it, they're up here. But I've never seen one.
She took the picture.
Never seen one. Yeah, I can send it to you when we're not on the phone, because I can't do it as we're on the phone. But I'll send it to you. And the footprint she found that night on her porch, and I guess it was like the back porch. She didn't even realize. She goes, "Look, they were up on my porch." Big giant footprints in the snow on her porch. It was right after we had our first huge bad snowstorm after I had moved to Kunkletown, and I was like, "Whoa." Wow.
Yeah, if you could please send me those pictures, I'd be.
Yeah, it's not a real clear picture, but when you look at it, it can't be anything else. Like, it's pretty obvious. And then you see the footprints, but I don't think it'd be something that you could put on TV and people will be like, "That's great evidence." But you'll see. You'll be like, "Yeah, that's
I forget what comedian said this, but he's like, maybe Bigfoot's just blurry, and that's why we always have blurry pictures of Bigfoot. I was just like, maybe.
Hey, could be.
But
yeah, it's interesting. But I would love to spot one, not up close, but I would love to. But no, the aliens have to come to me. Jesus, just my luck.
Yeah, of course. Well, listen, we could ramble on and on about this experience because there's so many different levels to it.
Hat man.
And right, and I would love to just kind of talk back and forth about this, because I feel like the more I talk to you, the more details I'm uncovering. But I just don't know where we're going to go with it. But I think that this is something that you and I could definitely keep in touch about, because if you have any new information, I would love to hear about it. But let's move into this Hatman experience.
Okay. So this is, another week or so past, me, this initial contact with you, blah, blah, blah. I'm still binge listening, and I was listening to an episode where you were talking about how you were listening to something in the car with your wife, and that whatever you were listening to sparked her memory that she had experienced a Hatman when she was little. And it wasn't even until mostly through this episode I realized, oh my God, me too. So here's what it is. Okay. So growing up, my dad is from the South, and his whole family lives in Florida or Georgia. And as a child, we often would go down, to my great grandmother had a very, I don't want to say too much because I want to respect my dad's privacy, his family's privacy, but they're very wealthy. They have an estate in the middle of an orange grove, and it's an old Spanish style architecture. It's very open, breezeways, this, that, and the third, huge. And even when you're a little child, it seems even much more grand than it is. My dad's family, of course, we didn't know them as well as my mom. Didn't know them well at all, because we didn't see them very often. And they're a little more stuffy, not very warm. And so it was Christmas. I think I was 3 years old. I was almost 4. So it was Christmas, and we spent Christmas in Florida instead of at home, because we went on a cruise, some Caribbean cruise for Christmas. But we spent almost like the whole Christmas break in Florida at the family estate, my great grandmother's. And I remember it was an evening where it was just myself, my sister, who's a little older than me, and my mother. My dad, my great grandmother, his brother, the rest of the family had gone out to some dinner or something. Everybody was out of the house. And it was just the 3 of us in the house, and like their maid. And like I said, there's a lot of hallways, breezeways all through the outside. And this house is like a maze to a little 3-year-old girl. I remember that we were in the guest room, and my mom was wrapping Christmas presents. She was actually teaching my sister and I how to wrap presents properly. And I got bored. So I kind of started wandering right out into the hallway. I feel like I was on some type of like little scooter or something. They must have had like a little toy thing that I was playing on. And I remember going out of the door and looking to my left down a very, it's a pretty long hallway. And at the end of the hallway, I see a very, very tall man. Now, all the Putnams are extremely tall. So that wasn't even odd to me, because my dad was 6'4", I'm 5'9", his brother's 6'4", very tall people. But it was dark because it was evening. In fact, I think my mom was watching the Carol Burnett show, if I recall correctly. So it's dark, but there's a lot, still light, like in the hallway, a little bit illuminated from, different lights, like in rooms that, but I see a very, very tall man. But the thing was, I noticed that he was dressed very formally, and knowing that my family was going out to a dinner, that didn't even seem that odd to me. I thought it was my grandfather. I saw very, very tall, top hat, formal top hat, like an Abraham Lincoln hat. No details, no facial features, because it's just black, like a shadow. And even a person kind of would have been a shadow at this point because it's the end of a dark hallway. I remember a long, like a cape kind of, slacks, like pants, like, it was almost as if the person was wearing, like, had been dressed in a tuxedo for like something, with the top hat and all that. But you can't see the details, just the outline of it. And I remember I turned to the left. I saw this presence. It was walking, I thought to the side, but it stopped when I stopped, turned to my direction. So now it's looking forward. And you only know this by the silhouette. And I turned back to the room and I said, Mommy, why is Grandfather George here? Because I thought he was supposed to be out to dinner. They left hours ago. And she's like, he's not here. I said, well, who's that? Now, my great-grandmother apparently had a couple husbands throughout her time. And she had a husband that way before we were born. And I don't know who he was. I forget his name now, but he was a fisherman or loved the sea. He was always on the sea and they called him the captain. I don't want to say what his first name was, but captain, insert first name. And there was a room in the house that was always locked. It was called the captain's room. You couldn't go in it. And everybody would tell stories that the captain his spirit was in this, estate. But the captain was like more of a beach bum kind of guy, dressed in jeans, never had, bare feet all the time. He was like a Key Largo kind of, you know what I mean? When you think of like Key West, that kind of person. He wouldn't have been dressed like that. But like, I think my mom, hearing that I'm seeing something down there, she didn't get up to look. She's like, oh, it's probably Captain Blunt. And it was just, something we brush off. And then the memory is so vivid. I mean, I even remember that my mom was, in Florida, they have those big, all south, those big palmetto bugs. And we don't like bugs. We're from Pennsylvania, but this is a very open construction architecture out in the nature. So it's going to have bugs. And I remember my mom had this spray in there. She was going nuts. Every time she saw one, she'd be freaking out, wrapping presents. I remember everything. And I can still see this. It was not Captain, and it was not my grandfather. And why would my grandfather be in a big top hat and like this long coat and like just very formally dressed? I don't think they went out dressed like that. And I didn't really think anything of it at all until I heard that episode. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like what I saw in Florida. And that, that was that. But like, it was just so odd that I'm listening to Lindsay's story of a story sparking her memory, and it sparked my memory.
Yeah, and that's how this kind of works, isn't it? I mean, people tend to forget about things, or they just stop thinking about it, so their memory of it just kind of fades until somebody else brings up that topic, and it's like, whoa. And
well, I always remembered it, but I never associated it with like Hatman, because I'd never heard of Hatman. I've never heard. I heard of Slender Man not too long ago, because I started calling my boy, one of his friends is weird. He's real skinny, and when he walks, he looks horizontal. And I used to call him Slender Man, but I knew it was like sort of some type of urban legend. But I never heard of Hatman. Never heard of Hatman until maybe like a year or two ago when I would start to read what's called the Creepy Catalog on Facebook. And then I would hear and then little stories about it, but not too much. I never really heard of it. So I never associated that with the Hatman. It to me was just that weird memory of a ghost in my grandparents' house.
Yeah, I think the Slender Man is basically a tulpa. It's the manifestation of something that's been given a lot of attention to, and I think Slender Man was probably something that didn't really necessarily exist before it became this phenomena of people paying attention to it, and now it's appearing, and you have the real life cases where like those two little girls that killed, I think it was their friend because they said Slender Man told them to. These are young little girls who did something horrific because this entity called Slender Man told them to do it. So it's something that's very real, but I think at one time...
So the idea is like it's an entity that only really came about because of a pre-existing legend. So it like sort of took on that persona based on like the inner. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
I don't really. Okay, so like.
Well, it's like it's kind of like it all depends on how you view things, right? I mean, I say it all the time on the show. If the way your worldview is going to shape your experiences, and I think that for me personally, the way I look at a tulpa is like it's something that there's some kind of entity that takes the form of something that's popular and being talked about a lot amongst people. So it's familiar.
So that'll get it seen, and that'll get it's out there. But yeah, okay, that makes, I understand that concept. Yeah. Because I never really heard of anything Slenderman before, but then all of a sudden now it's all the rage.
Right. And so
what about this rake thing? I don't want to know anything about it. It gives me it makes my skin crawl. Dad, you did recently, because I was going to suggest to you, it's like, when are you going to talk about the rake? And then you did come out with an episode, right, about the rake.
Yeah.
But I don't think I paid attention very well to that one. Something else must have been going on in my house at the time that I couldn't really focus on it. But was it a listener story though that talked about it, like a listener experience? Okay.
It was the live show that I did in Houston. I put it up as a podcast, and the guy, he's in Dallas, and he saw two of these things in broad daylight with a friend as they were walking up a hill. And the rake is something that, again, I've had people just recently commenting. Yeah, well, me neither. I've had people commenting recently on that picture, or the video, I should say, that I put up on YouTube of the rake and stuff. And the one person said, come on, people, this isn't real. It was made in Hollywood. And I'm thinking, yes, but there's different layers and levels to life. And like I said, I mean, maybe the rake is a tulpa of some kind, where it's manifested itself because of the attention that this topic of rake has gotten. And so, but what it is, I don't know. It could be some kind of monster, extraterrestrial type entity, but whatever it is, the videos that are online, there are real.
I've seen some, and some of them I'm like, there's no way that this is real. Like, this is not fake. Like and that's why. That's the thing, because it scares me that much, because it really, to me, looks legitimate, some of this footage, and it doesn't look nice. It's, you know what I mean? And like, isn't it odd? Like, the Hat Man tends to be something that comes to mostly like younger children. Am I understanding? From what I'm like, kind of.
Most of the time, it's
weird.
Younger children, and it's either an experience where it's whatever, or it's a terrifying experience. It's really
for me, it was whatever. Because I thought it was my grandfather, because it was just really tall, and you know what I mean? I wouldn't have been able to see him anyway if he was at the end of the hallway. So it really was a whatever at the time, thank God.
Yeah.
Where Lindsay's was terrifying, right? She
was scared,
I recall that. Yeah.
It's funny. It was funny telling her mom that story. Just not maybe like a year or two ago, we told her mom that story, and she's like, "Really? Why didn't you tell me, honey?" Like, she felt so bad.
Yeah, and my mom just kind of blew it up. My mom, I think, was a little. My mom kind of believed in that kind of stuff. She did. She was real. I think a lot like my mom, and I think she probably really did think it was the captain, but she not having gotten up and seen it. And she's listening to the testimony of a 3-year-old girl. So and I was very, and I still am very. I was very bold, and the actress and the singing CCR all the time when I was 5. So she just probably thought it was, I'm just being Amy, and didn't think too much of it. But no, I know what I saw. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Right.
It didn't scare me. It just was like, to me, it was odd, because I didn't understand why my grandfather was still home and why he was like creeping out in the hallways.
Yeah, I can understand that. But I'll tell you what, Amy, I really appreciate coming on and sharing these experiences. It's been a pleasure, and I have a feeling.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I got to tell you, that episode with Charlie, the soldier.
Yeah.
Wow, it still has me shaking, and I really. That was a great episode, and I'm so glad that he had called in and shared that with you. I just wanted to say that. And if he's listening, like, good job, and I hope it's helped him. I really do.
Yeah, I do too, and I keep in touch with him. Actually, him and I have been texting back and forth this past week and stuff, and I just try to keep in touch with him, because what he talked about on that show and stuff. He was concerned about what could happen after he talks about something like that, and
maturity issues and things like that. Yeah,
right. And so we've been keeping in touch.
It took a lot of guts. I thought about that afterwards. I was like, that took a lot of guts for him to even do that. But and that to me said like it really was weighing on him, and he really had to get it off his chest.
Yeah.
And thank God he had a venue to do that now.
Well, that's the goal with our shows. I mean, the way I created the show is I just want it to feel like the audience listening. I want them to feel like they're sitting at a table with me, talking with somebody that had a crazy experience. You know, it's just
which is exactly how it is, and it's doing a really good job. And you know, keep it up.
Well, I'll do my best. And on that note, thanks for coming on.
Okay, no problem, Tony. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the show, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please go ahead and share it with your friends. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, email. I don't care how you share the show. Just share the show. And I'm going to try something a little bit different this week. You see, I came across an app. They'll ask you random questions, kind of like a would you rather kind of thing. And I thought it'd be fun to ask you guys a question of the week. So this week's question is, would you rather be buried alive or eaten alive? It's kind of a hard question for me to answer, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. So hit us up on Twitter at @TConfessionals. That's our Twitter handle, at @TConfessionals, and use the hashtag TC Question of the Week. Let us know, what would you rather have done to you? Be buried alive or eaten alive? That's a hard question for me to answer, and help me figure it out at TConfessionals on Twitter. And until next week, friends, stay safe, take care, and remember, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Bye.